A very good morning, friends. Today we have with us Dr. T. Venkatesan, Principal Scientist, NVIR Bangalore, who will be delivering lecture on DNA barcoding of insects, principles and practices. I have a privilege of introducing Dr. T. Venkatesan, who was born on 13 November 1966 at Vellore, Tamil Nadu, and he has experience of 26 years in the field of biological control, pest management, molecular entomology, and commercialization of biocontrol technologies. He has obtained his both Masters and PhD from Entomology Division, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi. Now he is working as a Principal Scientist at ICR NVIR Bangalore. He has guided 5 students for his for PhD degree and 6 for MSc, and he also mentored 1 DBT postdoc, DST inspired faculty, and DST women scientist. To his credit, he has published 120 research papers in different reputed international and national journals, besides depositing more than 3,000 DNA sequences to the GenBank. As a chairman of ITMU, that is Institute Technology Monitoring Unit, he has commercialized several biocontrol and pheromone technologies to the industries and organized the 3 institute industry interface during 2013, 16 and 19. As a secretary of Society of Biocontrol Advancement, Bangalore, he has organized several national and international conferences, seminars, meetings, symposiums, and brainstorming sessions. He has visited USDA, Gainesville, West Virginia State University, US, and University of Guelph at Canada for advanced training in vitro rearing of natural enemies. And he is a fellow of Society of Biocontrol Advancement, Association of Advancement in Pest Science, the Royal Entomological Society of London, the prestigious one. And he has been recipient of many awards. To mention few, he has been awarded for the Award of Excellence ICR NVIR in 2016, and he has been awarded Dr. S. Sitaraman Biennial Award for the Excellence in Biological Control Research in 2019, and he has been awarded by SBR the Excellent Award in the field of biological control, molecular entomology, and he has been awarded many more awards in the field of insecticide resistance, development of stress-tolerant natural enemies, commercialization of biocontrol agents, capacity building in entomological research. We have such an eminent resource person with us. We will enjoy his lecture on DNA barcoding of insects, the both principles and practices. Thank you, sir.
Very good morning, everybody. At the outset, I'd like to thank the head division of entomology and my friend Dr. Subramani and Dr. Shagar for inviting me to deliver a talk on DNA barcoding of insects and principles and practices. And how many of you visited our bureau? Please raise your hand. Oh, good. So we have been working on several aspects of insects. One of the important institute working on insects on different aspects. And one of the major aspect we are working is DNA barcoding of insects. And last maybe 7-8 years, almost 3,000 insects we have barcoded, and we submitted the GenBank accession number. With this, we will go to DNA barcoding of insect principal practices. Anybody is working on barcoding? Please raise your hand. So, in what groups you are working? Mealybugs. Good. Any morphotaxonomy? Which group you are working? Good group. Very good. Yes. So, we will be covering our subject on scope of DNA barcoding, methodology, bold submission, the applications of barcoding, and NGS based barcoding. So, these are the aspects we will be covering in another 1 hour talk. And before that, we would like to know the importance of the insects. Among all the organisms, you can see insects stands number 1 with respect to number. Okay. Then insects, they are occupants of our planet almost 400 million years ago, very old as compared to even other organisms, even including human being. And they are present everywhere, the mountain, desert, and high altitude, everywhere it is present there. And we also get lot of products from insects. You can see the honey is there, pollen, royal jelly, propolis, so many items are there. And even other ornamental thing also, fabrics, other things also there. The insect also, we get the indirect benefit from insects. They are very important for the ecosystem functions. For pollination, they play a very important role in pollination and nutrient cycling, especially the forest ecosystem. So many waste is being recycled. Okay, so they are very important. Otherwise, if the insects are not playing role, it will be very difficult. Then they also play a role in links in food chain. They will be like phytophages, carnivores, and they serve as a food for many animals. And they are also enemies for many farmers. For example, they are pests in several crops. So very difficult to manage this one. And biocontrol agents of many pests. And in our bureau, we are working on the biological control of insects for several pests, and we come out with the very good technologies, and almost 27 technology we have got. So this is being supplied to the industries and even for farmers also to control the pest. So this is one of the strengths in our bureau. Then next important thing is insects as a food. Okay, so now many places, many countries, insects being as a good source of protein. They say insects protein is superior than animal protein. Okay, so it is going on. Anybody tested the insect? I tested insect biscuit. You tested? Termites, very good. Yes. So as entomology, you should test insects. Okay. So why I am giving these pictures? Because this barcode technique can be used for even to identify the organism even with processed food also. That's a beauty of this barcoding technique. And many places food adulteration is being happening. Many places suppose when you go to some of the hotels, instead of buying the fish suppose which is very costly, they serve for the local one. Okay, so very difficult to identify. Okay, this food adulteration major aspect of DNA barcoding. Originally, the barcoding technique has been now developed for only taxonomy purpose, but this has got a beyond different level. Okay, so even for some of the Ayurvedic medicines, so nobody knows what is inside. They say this is good for your diabetic, this is for your pressure. So many things they say, but very difficult to identify what is inside. So with the DNA barcoding technique, we can identify all the plants. Okay. This is one the pictures we have taken for Northeast. Northeast, many of our friends there taking the insects. This is the photo I had taken. I visited Northeast over 1 month back. So then, when you see the known biodiversity, approximately 1.7 million species have been identified, and whereas the estimated is 10 million species. Okay, so still there is a gap. Is almost 8.3 million species need to be identified. So among all this one, you can see there are spiders, crustaceans, mollusks, vertebrates, and so a lot of we need to speed up that identification. Okay. Now coming to the identification and classification, last 200 years, 1.7 million species have been characterized. Okay, and this is only less than 10% of the estimated species. So with this level, if you want to identify the remaining 90% of species, we need, it has been estimated, we need almost 15,000 taxonomists, and this will take another 200 years. Okay, okay, very, very difficult. And when another important thing, less fund and dwindling interest in taxonomy. So many of our friends, they are not venturing into taxonomy as our MSc or PhD. Okay, so taxonomy also, the interest is coming down, and the increased international trade, risk of introduction of invasive species. So now you go to any mall or anything, you can get any imported fruits and vegetables, okay, from different countries. Okay, so by which we can there's a chance of getting a new pest inside. Okay, very difficult to identify. So like that only we are getting almost every 6 months we are getting new pest. Now fall armyworm has come. Earlier the Rogus spiraling whiteflies come. Like every 6 months one or other pest we are getting. Then accelerated extinction of rate of a species. Then biodiversity and conservation. They're very, very important. This anyway we'll be covering next slide. And some of the issues in morphological identification. Okay, first thing, phenotypic plasticity and genetic variability. Can anybody say what is phenotypic plasticity? So they'll be similar. Okay, they'll be similar. Very, very difficult to morphologically distinguish. Okay, and they are also different with respect to the gene. For example, some of the pests in one places they will be resistant to pesticide. Same species in other places may not be resistant. Okay, so we don't know. One of the reasons must be they are not, maybe genetically they may be different. Okay, and morphologically cryptic taxa and biotypes genetic groups can be identified. Can anybody say what is one reason for biotypes or any examples? BPH. Okay, very good. Then what about genetic groups? Excellent, yes. So genetic groups have there are 9 genetic groups have been documented in the country, and even Dr. Subramanian and the group they worked on this aspect. So they found the Asia2 genetic group is very most prominent one present in the especially in the northern belt. We also done a lot of genetic variation with respect to the DNA barcodes. And another important problem in morphotaxonomy is keys are effective for particular life stage. Okay, always they try to identify using the adult stage. Suppose I give the emergent stages, larval stage or egg stage, it's very difficult to identify. Okay, but whereas in the DNA barcode, any stage we can identify. That's one thing. Even part of the insect can be used. Suppose I give only leg print for holotype. And some of the issues in we are going to discuss here. First one, no one knows how many species are there. Okay, very difficult. And second one, traditional taxonomy identification methods may be inadequate, too slow to capture vanishing biodiversity. And suppose another one, the classical taxonomy is difficult to non-experts to understand. Suppose I give this keys to identify, is it possible for a non-taxonomist? It's very difficult. Okay, only taxonomy can do it. So keeping all this one interest, there is a DNA barcoding as technique has come. During 2003, is Dr. Paul Hebert. He is considered as a father of the DNA barcoding technique. And when he said, there was a lot of people they opposed this one, especially they said that it is not very useful technique. Only for some insects may be useful. So when he introduced this DNA barcoding concept during 2003, in 2004 there are different scientists. They also they given their views. For example, they said especially ecologists and other users, this is what we need. Okay, how soon we get started? Okay, there one group they said, and from the traditional taxonomy they said species should be based on the lots of characters and not just for barcodes. So like that everybody has given, but there are one group. This is very good. This can be taken up like that. They given. There's still some taxonomists. They are working on molecular, based DNA barcoding, even different institutions. So they are doing both. They will say integrated taxonomy, morphotaxonomy and molecular taxonomy. So when he said again, you can see there are one they say advocated. Okay, ID for all species, discover new species. That's the idea, and speed up the IDs for different organisms, and revitalize the biological collections. Those who opposed, they said it won't work, destroy the traditional systematics, because they have been working on MSc level, PhD level, and last so many years they are working. Suddenly you say take one fragment, I can identify, means initially people they don't accept. Okay, and they say it's pseudo taxonomy. Okay. Okay, now DNA barcode. DNA barcode nothing but a short sequence from the standardized portion of the mitochondrial genome. There are two genomes, the nuclear genome and mitochondrial genome. Okay, so mitochondrial genome there is a gene that is COV1, mitochondrial based COV1, and the size is a partial sequence, 648 base pair. Okay, so now the individual sequence can be used to uniquely identify an organism or species. So this 648 base pair is unique for each species. Okay, and we can say the variation between species also. Okay, so they used the Falmer region. Anybody say what is Falmer region? So he is the scientist who first identified this MTCO1 gene as an excellent marker for identifying different species. Almost all the invertebrates. Okay, so they tried several genes. They found out this is this one gene, that is 640 mitochondrial gene, especially 5 end of the MTCO1. So it is able to discriminate in all the organisms. So they used this one, and here when you see the concept in barcode is genetic variation between species exceeds variation within the species, 10x rule. So suppose within population you say suppose let's say 0.2% variation is there, the species should not be more than 2%. Okay, almost 98-100% should match, so that they say one species. Otherwise, there is a chance of cryptic species or other species. Then always they say integrated taxonomy, classical and molecular taxonomy. So they never said you should go for only molecular taxonomy. So you should also work with morpho taxonomy and molecular taxonomy. And see, this is a barcode. It contains different colors. What is colors? Anybody can say? What is this nucleotide? Okay, nucleotide. There are 4 nucleotides, everybody knows: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. ATGC. Okay, so this is the arrangement of ATGC in the barcode, nothing else. So when you go to your supermarket, so when you are buying any items, there will be a barcode will be there. Okay, black and white. In your water bill, current bill, there will be same thing. When you scan it, you get the ID. Similarly, here also, no, each species there is a barcode. Okay, and the scope of DNA barcoding insects. See, they never said, we should not go for morphotaxonomy. They always said morphotaxonomy is very important, but supplemented with molecular taxonomy also. And see, here DNA based species identification will speed up the analysis of the known species. Okay, always, when you do barcode, there will be reference will be there in the NCBI or in a BOLD database. Reference section will be there. So whatever you sequence, it will be blast with the reference one, and we will find out. Only thing, reference sequences should be increased. Okay, many unknown species may not be available. Okay, it is required. Then another thing, even museum specimen can be used for DNA barcode. Even there are many international labs that are working on DNA barcodes of museum specimens. So they are also tagging with all the museum old one. So even there are reports that 170 years old, the fossil specimen they could identify based on DNA barcode. Whereas this is not possible with the morphotaxonomy. Okay, so 180 years, 80 years, all with a small fragment we can do the barcode. And another important thing, reveal cryptic species within the species. I already said there are biotypes we can identify, genetic groups we can identify. Then even discover new species by sampling biodiversity. Okay, so all the new hotspot area we can quickly do it. Then there people are working on automatable DNA chip based technique. Okay, there is a chip based, there is an instrument, and when you put the insect tissues, okay, still it's not ready, people are working on. So DNA isolation will be done, PCR will be done, then there will be library will be there, then you will get the the ID for your species. A very simple one, people are working on this one. And see, these are the organisms, the DNA barcode has been very successful, especially bird, fish, cowries, that is shells, crustacea, earthworms. Earthworms, very, very difficult to identify. They will look similar, but DNA barcoding techniques can identify different earthworms, and insect, spiders, microalgae, protists, and bacteria. And in the case of plants and fungi, the cytochrome oxidase gene will not work. Okay, so only for mostly invertebrates. Then in the case of plants, there is a chloroplast DNA and ribulose biphosphate carboxylase, that is RBCL and MATK. So these genes can be used for barcoding in the case of plants. Say similarly, in the case of fungus, ITS region can be used. Okay, this is very, very important. And see there, this is nuclear DNA and ribosomal DNA, this is mitochondrial DNA. And in the mitochondrial genome, there are several genes are there. Okay, ND1, ND2, there are CO1, CO2, and you can see here ND4, several genes are there. So they used the CO1 gene to identify the different species. Okay, CO1 gene is used for barcode mostly. Wherever CO1 you are not able to do, then we can go for next genes, ITS, multi-gene we can go. Elongation factor or ITS2 we can go for. Otherwise barcode mostly CO1 it gives. And when you are constructing phylogenetic tree I think somebody would have covered, no? Okay, anyway. So phylogenetic tree, normally we can go for more than one gene. Okay, so we use one mitochondrial gene and one nuclear gene. And mitochondrial gene sometimes it may not give very, very good variation. Especially we worked on trichogramma. Trichogramma, can anybody say how trichogramma can be identified? Trichogramma species. Genitalia, male genitalia. Okay, male genitalia. So male genitalia removing and identifying very difficult. For only experts can do it. So we nearly I think 22 trichogramma species, mostly in indigenous and some exotic also. We identified. We studied the variation with respect to two genes. We used ITS2 and we used CO1 gene also. And we compared, we constructed phylogenetic tree, we compared, and we found that the ITS2 is a very good marker with respect to studying the variation between species in trichogramma as compared to CO1 gene. Okay, so always when you construct phylogenetic tree, you should go for more than one gene instead of simply going for one gene. And why we are using mitochondrial DNA for DNA barcodes? So first reason is it is much smaller than the nuclear DNA. Sequencing is very easy. Then second one, it has got a fast mutation rate as compared to nuclear DNA, and the variation between species and less variation among the species. Then it is less prone to insertion deletions and other large scale rearrangements. So the sequence error will be less as compared to other one. Then very stable, little or no degradation missing specimen. That's the reason we are able to identify the old specimen, maybe 50 years, 100 years. So that's a very important in the case of mitochondrial DNA, and easy to design primers. So here we have we got the universal marker. So one marker is that it's able to distinguish in species with respect to all the organisms. Okay, so very easy. So anybody can with 2 weeks or 15 days training program, anybody can start the DNA barcoding work. So that's very easy. And why Cohen gene? Most popular barcode used worldwide and very efficient for species identification, and highly conserved DNA sequences within species. Okay, then align process is not difficult because it's a protein coding region. Okay, and indels are rare, easy to isolate from wide range of organisms. Then coming to DNA protocols, how we can isolate the DNA, how we can do the PCR, how we can do sequencing. There are three things: DNA isolation, then PCR amplification, then your sequence generation. Then we will be blasting with the sequence available at NCBI. Okay, these are the major things. So as soon as you collect any insects, okay, try to preserve with all the ID. For example, labeling is very important. Where you are collecting, locations, and who collected, date, altitude, like everything should be there, because when you want to construct a phylogenetic tree, these are very important, so that we can see in the different populations the variations. And immediately after that, you should get the voucher ID and the museum ID. Try to preserve in our institute or wherever. For example, we also preserve all the specimens with the proper ID. Okay, then we can also store it -80 degrees centigrade. Okay. Then we can isolate. So normally for bigger insects, we use a portion of part of the leg will be used for DNA barcoding. So normally one hind leg will be using DNA barcoding of insects, and otherwise small insect we cannot. For example, Trichogramma whole insect we are using, Trichogramma very minute insect, because they are very difficult to isolate. Single Trichogramma we are using for DNA barcoding, and again different DNA extraction kits are there. Okay, so Quagen kit we can go, or there is a Chalex method is there, and other methods also there. So here then we will be doing the PCR thermal cycler. PCR also I think somebody would have covered. Okay, there are different procedures there. PCR mixer is there. There is this is the primer HCO1 2198 and the another one LCO1 1490. These are important primers used for DNA barcoding insects. It can be procured from many companies. Okay, then other DNA mixer is there, PCR mixer is there, and there is a tag polymerase. So all this one we had just put it in the tube, then do the PCR. And there is a PCR condition, this is a denaturation 94 degrees centigrade for 30 cycles, and denaturate 94 degrees centigrade for then annealing extension. These are the PCR conditions. Then we get the PCR product. Then you have to clean up also. There is a PCR cleanup is there. Then give the samples for sequencing. Okay, sequencing within 2 or 3 days you will get the sequence for your insect. Then you have to edit the sequence. If there is any sequence error will be there. Stop codons, all these things you have to edit. Then you can submit for your sequence. You will get the NCB accession number. Then once you get the NCB accession number, then you will get the bold accession number with all the details. So molecular identification using universal primer. Okay, originally developed for marine invertebrates, used for animal groups. So here you can see the LCO. That is I think lower standard of DNA. This is heavy, light and heavy, and these numbers 1490 and 2198 refers to the position of the, because originally they used several insects, several organisms. Now the Drosophila jacoba, the 5' nucleotide, so it is this is the nuclear position of the 1490 to 2198. So based on that they given the name for the primer. Okay, so anywhere it will be available. So they checked more than 80 invertebrate species. They found out this particular primer is able to give excellent variation they used. Now you can see that when they used the particular primer, So it has given nearly 651 readable sequences, which is equivalent to 219 infrared amino acid residues. So very popular one. That's why they are using for all the organisms. This is a pictorial barcode, DNA barcode techniques. So this is specimens. As soon as you get the specimens, try to collect all the data, collection of data. Then photographs also very important. Okay, so specimens photos is very important. Then other data also. Okay, latitude, longitude, who collected, all the information should be there. Then take a tissue out of your sample, small tissue. Maybe normally we use a leg portion. Okay, see the point is, you may ask why we not use whole insect. Whole insect sometimes when you use, you may get some of the impurities also. Okay, gut contents will be there, lot of bacteria will be there, fungus will be there. So always leg portion is very good, and one portion should be there, remaining should be intact. Okay, so suppose when you come out with a good sequence for when you try to identify your insects, and somebody is objecting. Okay, so what you have done is may not be correct. Then you should be able to show your in the virtual specimen, okay, so that they can identify. Okay, so always virtual specimens are very important, should be intact. Then extract the DNA, then PCR, then sequence. Okay, then you get the sequencing, then you can get the accession number. So beside this, we need to give all the information also along with it. When you want to develop the DNA barcodes, we need to give all the specimen informations. Okay, ID, mesonym ID, collection code, institution where it is stored, all the information is there. Again, taxonomy also very important. What order it belong, and family, and who identified, all the information should be given, and specimen details also. Okay, the female, whether it is an adult or a larval stage, all the information should be given. Then other thing, latitude, longitude. So all the information should be given for DNA barcoding development. So these are some of the details to get the barcode. NCBI sequence, specimen information, taxonomy of the specimen, specimen details, and the collection information. So this is required for bold database. That is barcode of light database. Where it is located, where it is there? Bold. From Canada. Okay. This is a screenshot of our DNA bold database. You can find from microbes to elephants. Okay, all the organism, whatever has been sequenced world level, it is everything is there. So here with our password and ID, you can also access. Okay, all the organisms. Suppose you are working one group of insects, you can know who is working on worldwide. Okay, then you can contact all those scientists. That's the advantage here. Then we can submit for our sequence. You will get the barcode from here. And some of the uses of DNA barcoding techniques, it's uniform development, stage independent, and conservation biology and biosecurity it is used. So many times, whenever we get the new pest, so immediately we can identify the barcode techniques. We don't need any expertise. Otherwise, in the country we don't have expertise for all the groups of insects. Okay, only few groups are there, and especially sometimes in the quarantine or in the customs or seaport, we get only the damaged insects will be there. Okay, so very difficult to identify because morphotaxonomy we need full insects. Okay, so with the fraction of that body, we can do the barcode. We can identify. Suppose it's an invasive pest, we can return back the consignment instead of bringing to our country. By which immediately quickly we can save. And this is what we have been telling our customs also, especially seaport airport. They should have the custom unit with the barcode technique lab, so that it can be immediately identified. And here the determination of food webs, even with the insect gut, whatever it is there, we can identify the range of the insect. For example, your parasite predator is there. So what are the insects it has consumed? So for whether it is aphids or mealybug, all can be identified. Then molecular phylogeny is cost effective. So there are several DNA barcodes we developed, more than 3,000 insects. So these are the IDs. Then coming to the application of DNA barcode, this is one thing, it has been very useful for see the molecular variation in different groups of insects. So we have identified in Trichochroma already we discussed, and another important group is Glyptopandellus. We have studied the association with the host insects, and even some of the invasive pests also. For example, Brachytisma longissima. So this is a very serious problem. Coconut. It's not present in Indonesia, Thailand. but so far it has not come to India. So we have done barcode, we sensitized all the border departments. So as soon as you see the pest, you should report to either SAUs or ICR. So we sensitized, we have several meeting also we conducted. Because once it already, in coconut we have the black-headed caterpillar problem is there. Okay, so black-headed caterpillar, it feeds on the lower leaves and middle leaves. This particular pest feeds on the top. Okay, suppose it enters, entire tree will be, entire coconut industry will be collapsed. So that's the problem. So this is the one, the Brandisma longissima. It's a very serious problem coconut in many other countries. So we have done barcode. So another interesting is the papaya mealybug, Paracoccus marginatus. It's a very serious problem we have reported during 2010. And from USDA we also got a parasitoid. Okay, that is Acerbophagus papaya, very successful parasitoid. We have been mass producing and supplying to different farmers and different stakeholders. So then simultaneously we also got a parasitoid in the field conditions. Okay, then our morphology taxonomy group, they identified Acerbophagus papaya, and we have done the barcode. Then it was almost 80 to 98% to 100% was matching with the from USDA group. Okay, so already because in the pest already it has come along with the parasitoid, it has come along with the pest. So we have done the sequence alignment. We have found that there are both are almost same. So this is the Trichochroma, several species we have barcoded, then we have studied the genetic variation, and we constructed phylogenetic tree with respect to two gene. One is MTCO1, another one ITS2. We found that ITS2 is better to study the variation with respect to Trichochroma. Then another one of the classic cases, the differentiating cryptic species. This is Astrapteps fulgurator, skipper butterfly. It flies from southern US to northern Argentina. So you can see here they are different with respect to DNA sequence, larval coloration, foot plants, and subtle morphological traits. So they look similar, but there are different cryptic species available here. So here you can see there is sympatric larvae of the Astrapteps fulgurator. One is Astrapteps trigo. Okay, so suppose it feeds on trigonia. Suppose we offer the other host plant, it will not feed, it will die. Okay, so they look similar, but there are 10 cryptic species available for this particular species. Through barcoding it has been identified. And we have done also another important insects, that is Micropletis. It's basically it's a parasite on the Helicorba and Spodoptera litura. One of the largest genera of Microgastinae, more than 200 known species are there. And there are already discussed endoparasites of Helicorba, Armigera and Spodoptera species. So the greatest diversity is in the Nearctic area. Okay, and many more undescribed species recorded from the Nearctic area. The diversity is much lower. Okay, here the main problem is there are another one more is the Strenilias. Strenilias Micropletis, they look similar. Okay, so many people they may wrongly identify as a Micropletis. So this is mostly present in the tropics area. There are 12 oriental and Australian species have been reported. So always there is not much variation with respect to morphology. These two species, Micropletis, Strenilias. So you can see here there is a clear-cut generic limits between the Micropletis and the Strenilias. Only the so you can see here there is a remarkable resemblance with respect to closely related genus Strenilias, except for most sculptured and notally. Okay, very minute difference is there. Otherwise, everybody thinks that there are both are different. So we have done the barcode, and you can see here. See here, surprisingly, the Micropletis and Strenilias they comes in one cluster. Okay, so whereas in the taxonomically they say both are different. Both feed on different groups of host insects. But when you see the phylogeny, they are coming in the one cluster. Again, we also done other maximum likelihood tree also we construct. There also comes in one group. So one of the reason may be they would have wrongly submitted the sequence. Okay, because very difficult to this is major problem we are facing. Okay, they don't identify properly, and instead of suppose Helicorba they identify Spodoptera something. So then when you blast whatever you do, all will be wrong. Okay, these are major problems. So we should be very careful. Okay. So that you can see here, Micropletis and Strenilias both are coming in one cluster. So that's the reason identification is very, very important, morpho identification. So we face this problem. Almost 2000 insects we retrieved from the NCBI database, and we found that this particular thing, it is one group. So besides this, the barcode techniques got excellent application for other areas. Okay, one is the identification of extinct species, and even they use barcode technique to identify the insects, rivers and streams as a critical indicators. Then illegal trade of endangered and protected insects. For example, many countries, for example, African countries, they hunt when the bush or animal or chimpanzee or gorilla, they process the meat, they supply it to other countries. So once the meat is processed, it's very difficult to identify. Okay, whether you don't know whether it is meat from wild animals or meat from our sheep or goat. So okay, so when you go to mall, you have to be careful. Okay, anyway, it is going to come. In India also they are going to introduce. Without barcode, we cannot buy any meat. We cannot sell also. So this is a major problem, because even in Japan, they hunt the blue whale or dolphin. They slice, process it, they send it to Indian nation, other countries. So that way, this is a major problem. Food adulteration is a major issue. With the barcoding technique, it is they are able to identify. Even there are an FD and CBOL, they are working on DNA barcodes, economically important fishes, economic fraud they say. Okay. And here, see here, this is even processed food also we can identify based on the DNA we get. We can identify whether it is. Suppose you go to hotel, you buy some items, fish or something. So they charge 1,000 rupees, but what they supply maybe not even 100 rupees. Okay. So that way, this technique. See, idea is barcode technique. Originally, it is meant for taxonomy or identifying the insect organism. Now it has gone to different level. Okay. So there are, if you see that a lot of food fraud is happening in different countries. Now even for US federal aviation industry, they are using the barcode technique to identify the birds which are flying and which are hitting the aircraft. Okay, the different level based on the feather. Okay, so that way it is now very useful for the army people. And even for there are based on the claw they can identify in the case of the wildlife. Okay, whether it is a Panthera leo or Panthera pardus. Okay, based on claw they can identify. And even many animals are getting killed in the roadside. Okay, so very difficult to identify. So they are using barcode technique. Which are the animals getting killed? So they can quantify also. So there are some examples we have also done. So we received some of the medicine bottles from some pharmaceutical company. Okay, they said, see, the bottle contains some insects, is a small pot. Okay, we saw only some 2 wings were there, then some damaged body parts were there. So then immediately we contacted GKVK Dr. Viresh, Dr. Viraktamat. Then somehow in the base of wing characters we identified this is the Pollenia rudis, Pollenia. Then we also, the remaining parts were there, we done barcode. Then we found out this Pollenia rudis based on the barcode. So the medicine bottle, whatever it is else we can use it. This is a portion we got from the medicine bottles. Okay, so exactly we published also. So another important thing, I don't want to name the country also because a lot of implications this will have. See, actually a company they approached. Okay, see, we sent the medicine bottle. This as a cancer drugs to some country. Okay, then they said, see, your product has got some insect parts. Okay, so kindly try to identify. The main part is the point is where it is contaminated. From country A or country B. Okay. So then see, this is the portion we got. Only some leg portion something was there. Luckily we got very good DNA. We have identified. It was almost 100% was matching with some specimen from country A. Okay. Then we inquired. Then they said there is a one patient. It's a very costly drug, very expensive one. So he was not able to buy this medicine. What he did, he simply killed one cockroach, put it in the medicine bottle. Then he reported, see, the medicine bottle is contaminated one, and I need a compensation. Compensation, First the company will be closed, okay, then they will have a lot of money. Then see, this is the way I'm telling, no, see, this is the way they are sometimes misusing also, okay. So we identified and we said, this is from, not from our country, it's from other country. Your report also. Then coming to the NGS based, see, whatever we said that this is based on the CO1 gene. Next, another important thing, NGS based DNA barcoding. Because see, for example, when you want to do barcode in large numbers, suppose hundreds, thousands, then we cannot go for simply each that routine barcode based technique. We need for NGS based, and what we are doing is earlier Sanger sequencing. Sanger sequencing that based on 658 base where we are doing, and this is not as efficient as compared to your NGS based. Okay. So here the main thing you can see the NGS based MiSeq 25 million reads with 2 into 300 base pair, and see the speed also 15 GB data will get per run, whereas the Sanger sequencing only 96 reads with and 1000 base pairs, so very slow. So the people are now going for the NGS based barcode. Of course, little very expensive. You can see here, this is the routine methodology we do. So sampling is done by each sample, then we do PCR, we do sequencing, and then we identify the insects. But in here we get the, suppose we are getting the Malaise trap, suppose we are getting 1000 insects, okay, try to identify whether it is at order level, family level, then put everything in the soup, okay, everything, take a soup out of this one, then do PCR. There are different primers are there, 12S ribosomal DNA, say 18S, all primers, then amplify. So you get the one shot you can get all the insects we can identify. So it is going on now, and people are going for even environmental DNA also, based on the water, whatever DNA is there, they are able to isolate the DNA from water samples. Then they can identify what are the insects are, what are the organisms are there. So this is a metabarcoding workflow, that is NGS based. So sampling and genetic analysis, and then coupled with all bioinformatic analysis and ecological analysis. Okay. This is the one thing that done recently. I think last year they done somewhere South America. So there entire your sequencer, your PCR, everything they carried to some remote forest area. So they have identified all the whatever organism is there present in the particular forest area. So here the feasibility of in situ molecular analysis using portable laboratory, single backpack, everything will be there. Okay, this is actually portable equipment including mini ion DNA sequencer, and they used in Ecuadorian Chaco rainforest. So they identify within 24 hours they identify many species there. So even they used for identification of Ebola and Zika virus. There are so much we talked about barcode, but there are limitations also there in the barcode. What are the problems? Okay, so always any technique get other side also. Okay, so first one is maternal inheritance. The empty DNA genes are generally maternally inherited. So there is a chance of interspecific hybridization or endosymbionts. Sometimes there will be endosymbionts will be there, Wolbachia, other things. So instead of amplifying the insect DNA, we will be amplifying the Wolbachia. So sometimes it happens. That's the reason we take the DNA from the leg portion. There will not be much contamination. When you use the entire organism, there is chance for contamination. Then there is a possible presence of nuclear copies of QC1. Sometimes they are new mats we say. So nuclear copies of mitochondrial DNA present in nuclear area. So this will interfere with your sequencing. Then the next one is in different rates of genomic evolution of COVID genes. Or some of the because different groups of insects they evolve at different level. Then again the closely related species, this may not be very successful, very closely related. So that's the reason we are going for other methodology. Then some of the groups which diverge in recent past. Okay, so this will be difficult. And again people are working on analytical and statistical issues DNA barcoding. And so already we discussed about the identification constraint bold commonly arise. Many times when you have the unknown specimen, there is no reference section in the case of NCBA, nothing will be there. So how to identify? That's the reason we need for the morphotaxonomist. Okay, so then it's easy to identify. Coming to the DNA barcoding, that group consortium for the barcode of life, CBOL we say. Almost now more than 45 countries are working in different countries, and they see that 150 member organizations are there. So every country is working on this one. So in India we need to really speed up. Even Pakistan also it has come, Pak Bowl has come, and Norway it has come. There is a consortium. India still it has to speed up. This is the Barcode of Life International Consortium Initiative. So they have started maybe I think 5 years back. So almost you can see here, this is the International Barcode of Life Consortium. Completed phase 1 barcode, almost 500,000 insects already done it, and they invested 150 million US dollar. So they generated nearly 5 lakh species during the 5-year duration. Again they started with the other group, that is Bioscan project, 2019-26, with 30 nations and $180 million they invested. So this is also now already going on. So next plan is the planetary biodiversity mission, that is about 50 nations. So already this will take up from 2026 to 45. So there are different barcode conferences going on. From started with London 2005, and every 2 years is being conducted. See, we all attended 2015. Now last I think 2 months back it was held in Norway. Next 2021, so Costa Rica. I think some of you should attend this one. Okay, a lot of fund you will be getting, especially from DST or DBT. So a lot of students are they are coming. So you should attend Costa Rica 2021. Okay, that's my sincere request. Work on this one and try to. So we met that Dr. Paul Hubbard. That's one of our dream to meet this gentleman. So one of the top scientists in Canada, and he has got an excellent the high level award, that is we called Bharat Ratna, we say in India. So highest award from Canada he has received for DNA barcoding technique. Thank you very much.
Questions from students side?
So is there any ways possible to separate or segregate that endosymbiont associated with that insect? Because sometimes you said there are limitations that you may get amplified that endosymbiont. Is there any techniques has anyone developed that to segregate or separate the identification of?
No, that's, see, in most of the cases, generally, we don't take the entire body. Okay, we don't. We take only leg portion, but there are cases that we have to see. Suppose
Suppose in the case of insects or some other hymenopterans, we have to go for entire insect.
No, that's what means. You should not use that gut portion. Okay, only leg portion, because but DNA even small portion is enough. So it can be used. Small leg portion can be used for DNA. So we can avoid that one.
Anybody? No questions? Fully understood?
So after that, please start working on barcode for your MSc or PhD.
About the other codes, because in all cases we cannot use the universal